Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Privraja Kacharya Shtotara Shatashi Srimad Gosvami Abhai Charana Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Privraja Kacharya Shtotara Shatashi Srimad Gosvami Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Maharaja Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Om Premstako Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava Gopi Gopinath Radha Kunda Shyama Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavana Madhura Dama Ki Jai Mayapura Navadvipa Dama Ki Jai Ganga Maya Muna Maya Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga, Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga, Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga, Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we will continue reading a wonderful, beautiful Bhagavatam, the first canto, chapter 4, entitled The Appearance of Sri Narada. And today we will be reading text 2. There is no board, but everyone has their own devices, your own devices to read Bhagavatam from. Okay. Shaunaka Vacha Suta Suta Mahabhaga Vadano Vadatam Vara Katham Bhagavatim Punyam Yattaha Bhagavan Shuka Shaunaka Vacha Suta Suta Mahabhaga Yadano Vadatam Vara Katham Bhagavatim Punyam Yattaha Bhagavan Sukha Sukha Sutta Mahabhaga Vadano Vadatam Vara Katham Bhagavatim Punyam Yadaha Bhagavan Sukha. Vacha Suta Suta Mahabhaga Vadano Vadatam Vara Katham Bhagavatim Punyam Yattaha Bhagavan Sukha. Shanaka Vacha Suta Suta Mahabhaga Vadatam Vara Katham Bhagavatim Punyam Yadaha Bhagavan Shuka. Shaunaka Vacha Suta Suta Mahabhaga Vadano Vadatam Vara Katham Bhagavatim Punyam Yataha Bhagavan Sukha. Shaunaka Uvacha said, Suta Suta O Suta Gosvami, Mahabhaga, the most fortunate, Vada, please speak, Naha, unto us, Vadatam, of those who can speak, Vara, respected, Katham, message, Bhagavatim, of the Bhagavatam, Punyam, pious, Yat, which, Aha, said, Bhagavan, greatly powerful, Shukaha, Shri Shukadeva Goswami. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shaunaka said, O Suta Goswami, you are the most fortunate and respected of all those who can speak and recite. Please relate this pious message of Srimad Bhagavatam, which was spoken by the great and powerful sage Shukadeva Goswami. Should we repeat together? Shaunaka said, O Suta Goswami, you are the most fortunate and respected of all those who can speak and recite. Please relate this pious message of Srimad Bhagavatam, which was spoken by the great and powerful sage Shukadeva Goswami. Purport. Suta Goswami is twice addressed herein by Shaunaka Goswami out of great joy, because he and the members of the assembly were eager to hear the text of Bhagavatam uttered by Shukadeva Goswami. They were not interested in hearing it from a bogus person who would interpret in his own way to suit his own purpose. Generally, the so-called Bhagavatam reciters are either professional readers or so-called learned impersonalists who cannot enter into the transcendental personal activities of the Supreme Person. Such impersonalists twist some meanings out of Bhagavatam to suit and support impersonalist views. And the professional readers at once go to the 10th canto to misexplain the most confidential part of the Lord's pastimes. Neither of these reciters are bona fide persons to recite Bhagavatam. Only one who is prepared to present Bhagavatam in the light of Shukadeva Goswami, and only those who are prepared to hear Shukadeva Goswami and his representative are bona fide participants in the transcendental discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, here we see that Shaunaka Rishi is eager to hear more and more Srimad Bhagavatam from Suta Goswami. And out of great joy here he addressed Suta twice. Suta Goswami, O Suta Suta Mahabhaga. He already heard from Suta Goswami how he answered the question to the six questions of sages of Naimisharanya, and he heard the glorification from him Bhagavatam. So now he's convinced that only Bhagavatam will cure the all ills of Kali Yuga. The only Bhagavatam is the remedy. And Shaunaka now recognizes that Srimad Bhagavatam, that's the essence of everything. That what we should study, what we hear, what we should hear, that's the Bhagavatam, because it's brilliant as a sun. Purana Arka Dunoditaha, that has a reason in this darkness of Kali Yuga to give light to the people who are blind, who cannot see in this darkness. To see what? To see the real substance, Vastu Vastavam, as it named by Shukadeva Goswami, the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Vastu Vastam, the real substance. What is the real substance? That's beyond the matter. That's summum bonum. That's the Lord and the loving service of Him. That's what real ultimate good for all the living entities. Now he's convinced, Shaunaka, but it was not like this at all. Some time ago we will speak to this, and now Shaunaka Gosvami want to probe the history of Bhagavatam, and history of Bhagavatam connected to the three persons, Vyasadeva, Shukadev Goswami, and Maharaja Parikshit. So he wants to know why Vyasadeva, who has already compiled a vast amount of Vedic literature, including Vedanta Sutra and Mahabharata, why he was inspired to somehow compile even another huge text, another huge literature as Srimad Bhagavatam. What is it behind this great impetus for him to compile it? And why did Shukadeva Goswami, who was already liberated from any bodily designation, all of a sudden could feel this inspiration to learn Srimad Bhagavatam? What is the importance of Bhagavatam? Why even the liberated soul got attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam? And why Maharaja Parikshit, the greatly saintly king who had numberless of citizens, subordinates, why he renounced everything? Why he renounced even these citizens who saw in him their only shelter? Why he renounced them? Why he renounced his throne and sit on the bank of Ganga and fasting and waiting for his death to come? So this verse is the beginning of this probe of the history of Bhagavatam. And Shaunaka Rishi states that Suta Goswami is most fortunate, Mahabhaga, and respected Vara of those who can speak and recite. Why? Because he is going to narrate the pious message of Srimad Bhagavatam to the whole world. And there are three main topics here in this world for us to discuss. The transformation power of Srimad Bhagavatam, because two personalities here mentioned who were transformed by the power of Srimad Bhagavatam, of hearing Bhagavatam and then speaking Bhagavatam. It was first Shaunaka Rishi, the main person here who welcomes Suta Goswami and asks all this wonderful question, and Suta Goswami himself, who hear Bhagavatam first and then speak out this wonderful Bhagavatam. So the transformation of this person, because it's hidden here. It's not here, but it's here. They were transformed. To be able to speak Bhagavatam, to be able to ask about Bhagavatam, you should be transformed by the Bhagavatam itself. So the transformation power of Srimad Bhagavatam, that's the first topic, and the second, qualities of Suta Goswami and Shukadeva Goswami as a reciters of Bhagavatam. Because to recite Bhagavatam, you have to be qualified, right? Some qualifications should be there. And we will speak about it. What are the qualifications of the speakers of Srimad Bhagavatam? And what are the qualifications of the hearers of Bhagavatam? Because before speaking, you have to hear. And for this, you also need some particular qualification to hear Bhagavatam. So we will discuss this one as well. And then qualities of Srimad Bhagavatam, which make everyone who recites and hear Bhagavatam Mahabhaga most fortunate. So the three topics are here, and we will try to cover them. We can start with the person who got transformed by hearing Bhagavatam, and he's mentioned here. This is Shaunaka Rishi. And Bhagavatam, the previous verse, which was discussed by Prabhu Jananivas Prabhu, mentioned Shaunaka Rishi as Kulapati. Kula means what? Dynasty, family, and also school. Kula, the mere word school comes from Kula. Kula means school. And Burijan Prabhu explains that Kulapati means the teacher or spiritual master who has a school with 10,000 disciples. That was the family lineage of Shaunaka Rishi. He was a head of the school of 10,000 disciples, great rishis, not just disciples, great rishis whom he was maintaining as his disciples. So it was a great family lineage which we can trace here. And Shaunaka was a great Brahmana, a really great Brahmana, because of this family lineage, not just Kula, that means school, but Kula also dynasty. He had a great dynasty of Bhrigu. He belonged to Bhrigu dynasty, and Bhrigu dynasty, that's a part of Shukracharya dynasty, and we will come now to the qualifications of Shaunaka Rishi. And he had superior knowledge of vastly studied Veda, and he is Bahuvricha. That's a word which addressed him in the previous verse, Bahuvricha. Bahu means what? Bahu means many, and Richa comes from Rig Veda, the hymns of Rig Veda. That means he knew numberless, literally speaking, Vedic hymns. He vastly studied Vedas, and his knowledge of the Vedas was really great, and he was exceptional person. And as we said, he descended in Bhrigu dynasty, and Bhrigu is a part of Shukracharya dynasty. And Shukracharya, he is a great teacher who was also teaching and who teaches how to free oneself from this material world. By Shukracharya does it in some particular way, in the view in the perspective of Pravritti Marg, because Shukracharya, he is a presiding deity of Venus, the planet of Pravritti Marg. And Pravritti Marg, the path which introduced material happiness as a material progress. We can get to the perfection of life through the material progress or material pleasures. That's the idea of Pravritti Marg. And here, the eminent descendant Shaunaka Rishi of Shukracharya, who is exponent of Pravritti Marg or material pleasures and getting to the perfection through material pleasures, now is going to diametrically opposite philosophy school, Bhagavatam school. And Bhagavatam school propagates what? Nivritti Marg. We have to give up material pleasures to get to perfection, right? Totally different, opposite to each other philosophies. And here, Shukadeva Gosvami, the representative of this Pravritti Marg, all of a sudden, accept Bhagavatam, accept Nivritti Marg as his goal. It shows something. What does it show? That Shukadeva Goswami, that Shaunaka Rishi was transformed right on the spot by the transcendental power of Srimad Bhagavatam. When through the associating of Suta Goswami, from whom he accepted Bhagavatam, he could understand the summum bonum, that the summum bonum, and not the material pleasures, not the material happiness, but the loving devotional service to the Supreme, through which we are getting real happiness. That was a twist in the consciousness, right on the spot. The highest transformation which is given by Bhagavatam. We also can be transformed like this. And he heard only just the beginning of Bhagavatam. He heard how Suta Goswami glorified the Bhagavan as Purana Arka, right? Krishna Svadhama Pagateya, Dharma, Dharma Jnana Dibiksaha, Puranarka Dishamasha, that's Bhagavatam. That is Purana Arka who has risen to eliminate the darkness of this world so that the people could see what could see, the Dharma and of this world, the Dharma and Jnana. So everything will be revealed by Srimad Bhagavatam. And because of this, Shaunaka got convinced that Srimad Bhagavatam is a medicine to cure all the ills of Kali Yuga. Moreover, he got into devotional ecstasy. It's another twist of his conscience. Before, he was a jnani. He didn't know bhakti actually as a means to get to the Lord. He was a jnani, but now he got convinced so much. The twist in the consciousness was so great that he is getting into devotional ecstasies and welcomes Suta Gosvami because he heard from him that Suta Gosvami would speak Bhagavatam out of his realization as he learned it and as he had understood it, as he had realized it. And because the realization was there, it enthused so much Shaunaka Rishi that his ecstasy because of this increased. So he was already qualified, as we said, and just this mere introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam and association with Suta Goswami, who realized Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami, he could change himself right on the spot. He could understand that not Pravriti mark, but Nivriti mark, that's the essence of happiness. Not through material pleasures we are getting happiness, but through devotional service. Like total, like twist, 180%, 180 degree, different direction. This is the power of Bhagavatam. This is the power of Bhagavatam. It can convince it. It can just change totally perception of the person, of the values of life. And here Shaunaka Rishi eagerly inquires from Suta Goswami, who was not even Brahmana by birth. Shaunaka Rishi had such a family lineage. He was coming from Brigu dynasty. He was like a direct descendant of Brigu, with this direct perception of this philosophy, which was a treasure of this dynasty. But still, he was asking Suta Goswami, who was not even a Brahmana. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states there that this chapter is unique because it explains the excellence of the speakers and the hearers of Bhagavatam. And now, what is the excellence of Suta Goswami as a reciter who could transform Shaunaka's mind, the consciousness, right on the spot, from the very beginning, from the just introductory portions. And it explained by Srila Prabhupada in the 18th chapter of this first canto, 18th verse. The appearance of Suta Goswami and the story of his family. He was born in a family of mixed caste, not even in a Brahmana family, or an uncultured low family. That was the family of Suta Goswami, reciter of Bhagavatam, uncultured low family. That's Prabhupada writes. And how was it manifested? How we know that he is coming from uncultured and low family? His father was Ramaharshana Suta, and we know this story from the 10th canto, how his father was going to, or was assigned by the sages of Naimisharanya as a main speaker, right, in this great sacrifice. But somehow when the Lord Balarama came there on his pilgrimage, came to Naimisharanya and was welcomed by the sages and was worshipped by them, somehow Ramaharshana Suta, and he got the seat of honor from all the sages, but Ramaharshana Suta continued sitting on his elevated seat, and thus he didn't distinct himself by standing up. He didn't distinct himself from the Lord. So the Lord was sitting and Ramaharshana Suta was sitting, and it was great offense. So somehow great Balarama took it like this, because what he was speaking about the absolute truth and the personification of absolute truth, Lord Balarama came there and he couldn't recognize that the object of his meditation, his speaking, his learning came to see, to give the darshan, came to be seen by the sages. It was offense, and then Balarama just very elegantly, by the tip of the blade of kusha grass, just touching the body of Ramaharshana Suta, he killed him, right? So it shows something that this family was uncultured. The lack of certain culture and certain tradition and certain understanding was there, although he was speaking Puranas and Smritis and Mahabharata and all other things, but somehow this law born was visible in the family. The same was with Suta Goswami, so, as father as son, right? The son somehow they inherited the same nature, and because of hearing Bhagavatam, after the Balarama gave his blessings to him to recite Puranas, to understand Puranas, to recite Puranas, but not Srimad Bhagavatam. And only when he came to the bank of Ganga, when Maharaja Parikshit was sitting and fasting, and heard Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami, then only he got transformed. And all these low qualities of his family just disappeared. The second transformation, the transformation by Bhagavatam, by hearing Bhagavatam through great authorities of Bhagavatam, like Shukadeva Goswami. And then Srila Prabhupada explains that hearing and preaching Bhagavatam is more powerful than just reading Bhagavatam. So Suta Goswami got this double advantage of associating with Shukadeva Goswami by hearing, and then from the sages of Naimisharanya by speaking to them, by preaching Bhagavatam. Thus, Srila Prabhupada writes that the speaker of Bhagavatam becomes even more qualified. So to speak Bhagavatam even more important than even to read Bhagavatam. These two things, to hear and then to speak, that what make reciter of Bhagavatam really imbibe this knowledge. Otherwise, this knowledge cannot be imbibed, just through hearing and through speaking out. It should go together. Thus, because of this double association of great souls like Shukadeva and all the riches in Naimisharanya, by hearing and preaching, all this disqualification of him as a reciter of Bhagavatam just gone. He was totally freed from all these low qualities of his family, his heritage. So Shaunaka and Suta Goswami got transformed by first hearing Bhagavatam. Here we come to understand what does it mean to hear Bhagavatam. And now we will discuss the qualities of hearing. How did they hear Bhagavatam? So that Bhagavatam could purify them. What are the qualities of hearing Bhagavatam? How to hear Bhagavatam to realize. Because not just hearing is the purpose of reading Bhagavatam, but the realization of Srimad Bhagavatam. We also come to this point. So how to hear Bhagavatam to realize it? By submissive oral reception. As Srila Prabhupada mentioned, we should give our ears to Katha. That's how the Lord gets attracted to us, that He gets bound by our giving ourselves to Katha. Then He gives Himself to one who attentively hears Katha. If someone submits his ears or surrender his ears to Katha, then the Lord submits Himself to this hearer, as an attentive hearer. So submission. But this submission should be submissive, with great regards toward the speaker and the subject matter. It should be there without any challenging. And with great sincerity. This is the second quality of hearing Bhagavatam. It should be sincere. What does it mean, sincere? The sincerity should be there, means integrity. There should not be second bottom of it. Okay, now we hear some spiritual topics, but then I am going out and do some material things. You know, the second should not be there, second bottom, means sincerity. Single-pointed mind, right? Concentrated only on one thing, at how to please the Lord in my relationship with Him. So, and to eager, one should be eager to hear. This eagerness, great eagerness, it's laulem, should be there to hear Bhagavatam. And this eagerness are born of the taste. If we have taste to hear Bhagavatam, then we will be eager to hear it. And this taste born of our relationship with the Lord. Therefore, it's prescribed or suggested to add the relationship in the hearing of Bhagavatam. It's also very important, like we also suggested to chant with the relationship, to chant with understanding our sambandha with the Lord, to feel the Lord. Oh my Lord, you are the object of my love, and I chant your holy name with a desire to please you. Sambandha should be there. You are my worshipable object. You are the object of my love. And if the love is not in the picture, then whatever feeling you have towards the Lord, still sambandha should be there. I have this wonderful relationship with my Lord, based either on respect or gratitude. I'm grateful to the Lord. If it's not love, then at least something should be there. So we have to add to our hearing. This is the object of my hearing. I want to, because I have some relationship based on some feelings towards Him. Therefore, when this added, this is my Lord, I have such and such relation. Therefore, I want to hear more because I dedicated my life to Him. So it's like the example of loving mother is given. So mother always wants to hear something about the object of her love, and this her child. The same with us. We want to hear something which we love, right? We love our Lord, or we like Him, or we grateful to Him, or we respect Him. Some feelings should be there added. And this will give the taste, and this will give the eagerness to hear. Why you want? Because you have the taste for the object of your feelings here. And then, of course, with rapt attention, because the attention comes from eagerness. I will be attentive toward what I want to hear, right? So it just connected all these points of hearing Bhagavatam, they connected. And then from the authoritative source, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned here in the purport, nobody wants to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from the person who is not authorized to give the Bhagavatam, who doesn't have qualities, devotional qualities, to speak on devotional topics of Bhagavatam. Nobody wants it, because nothing will be gained from this, right? They don't have any access to real Bhagavatam. The materialists or non-believers or the impersonalists, they can twist some meaning according to the motives, to suit their motives, to fulfill their motives, but otherwise the real substance of Bhagavatam is inaccessible for them. So these are the qualities of hearers of Bhagavatam. Once more, we have to hear how? Yeah, submissively. Yeah, sincerely. Eagerness should be there. Attentive, yeah, rapt attention should be there. Yeah, and from authentic, yeah, authoritative source also should be there. That's the qualities of our hearing of Bhagavatam, so that to realize it, because the purpose not to just hear, but to realize what? What is the essence of Bhagavatam? The essence of Bhagavatam is rasa, sweet relationship with the Lord. And we can right on the spot realize this if we hear from the authority who realized Bhagavatam. So the realization is very important for us, and we are coming. How the realization of a speaker gives the bija, gives the seed of our own realization of Bhagavatam. Therefore, to hear from the person who realized, or self-realized, or realized Bhagavatam, it's the same. We can equal self-realized person and the person who realized Bhagavatam. It's the same person, actually. The same qualification. Why? Because what does it mean to be self or to become self-realized or get this self-realization? That means to understand your relationship with the Lord. It means to understand rasa, the sweetness of this relationship. And Bhagavatam, the essence of Bhagavatam, is also rasa. So thus, by rasa, our rasa, we can understand the rasa of Bhagavatam. It's, that's the same. To hear from the person who realized Bhagavan or self-realized person is the same thing. So thus we can understand. But the main thing to hear. That's a great transformation coming from the association of great devotees who completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. They can at once purify, sanctify those who come in touch with them through hearing or just by seeing them. And Prabhupada just make a point, just by seeing them, the person of a low qualities or unqualified person can get purified on the spot just by seeing them. Even by their darshan of the great sages or great devotees who realize Bhagavan, who realize themselves, we can be purified. Therefore, it's so important to associate, just taking darshan, just normal darshan of this devotee, so great, so important for us. That's how we can get purified just by seeing them. And now we are coming to the qualities of speaker of Bhagavatam. Why this transformation comes to those who hear Bhagavatam from the speaker, of what should be the qualities of the speaker of Bhagavatam. One of the qualities of the speaker of Bhagavatam is to speak from realization, as we heard. So Shaunaka could estimate the value of Suta Goswami as a speaker of Bhagavatam because Suta told, I will explain Bhagavatam as I learned and as I understood, as I realized. And because of this, Shukadeva Goswami could understand the qualities. Yeah, that's the right person to speak because the realization of Bhagavatam is there. Okay. And it's described by the word yadhadhitam. Yadhamati, yadhadhitam. Yadhadhitam means as I learned, and as yadhamati means as I has understood it or realized. So what does it mean, realization? And why realization is so important? Srila Prabhupada, commenting the verse of the 3rd chapter, 44th verse, there explain what does it mean, realization. Interesting for the ears. When I realize something, what I speak about will be so interesting, will be juicy. That's the first sign of the person who understands something or what he speaks. It will be juicy for the ears to hear. It's the first sign of realization. And second, the realization should be suitable for the circumstances. When I see my audience, if it's advanced audience, I should speak like as I will be speaking, to the materialist, or just vice versa. I should consider all the things, how the circumstances will also applied. We should understand how to speak according to circumstances. This also requires realization of Bhagavatam. And then the third thing, the realization doesn't change the original message, doesn't change the original purpose, which shows that reciter has a respect towards the previous predecessor who gave this Bhagavatam. And in our case, that's Shukadeva Goswami and Vyasadeva. So we, as reciters, we have to represent Srila Vyasadeva. And what does it mean to represent? To present exactly his point of view on subject. Nothing should be changed. And there are 3 levels of knowledge, and where realization falls in, we will trace now. First, the just knowledge. When I hear Bhagavatam, I'm just getting knowledge. Okay, this is Krishna, this is my relationship. It's just general. Okay, that's very high knowledge, but it's still knowledge. nothing else. I'm just getting the information. Not knowledge, the information. I'm getting information. That's the first level of knowledge. Knowledge as information. The second level of knowledge, that's understanding of what I hear. All right? This is second one. And the third one, to realize. Not just understand of what I hear, but to realize and see through this understanding of this knowledge. And this third level is called Shastra Chakshu. To see through the eyes of Shastra. And Shastra gives the realized truth of the great sage, how the great sages realize the Lord. So to see through the eyes of Shastra means to see this realized truth. And what does it mean to see it? Our eyes, that's a part of our personality. The same, to see through our realization, that means to make this realization part of our nature and to act accordingly to this realization. This, the real truth about realization. It should be seen. Through this realization, I have to see the reality. Not like, okay, I understand this knowledge, but my life and this understanding is just totally opposite reality for me. That's my reality with my life, and this is my understanding. No. To see through eyes of understood knowledge means to apply it, what I hear, to apply in life. And live this understanding, live this realization. That's the third level, that's the highest level. And how we realize truth in Srimad Bhagavatam? On the basis of the realization of a speaker of Bhagavatam. It's very important to understand. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada again and again stressed that Bhagavatam should be heard from self-realized person. Because this person who realized Bhagavatam or self-realized Bhagavatam, he gives, with his understanding, with his realization, he gives this bija. He gives this seed of our own understanding of Bhagavatam. It should not be just vibration of the lips when I speak about something. It should be substantial. The substance should be in my heart. I should understand what I'm speaking about and apply. Then it will be so powerful to hear. Because immediately it will just take this person from any condition nature, whatever it may be. That's the act of our gurus. They're taking the disciple from any level of condition, whatever it may be, and then just by their speaking, by their presenting this truth, they just situate them immediately. They put them in the transcendental reality of their realization, of their nature. This is the power of a speaker. Therefore, it's so important to hear Bhagavatam from the one who realized himself or realized Bhagavatam, which is the same. And it's interesting, the same was the effect of Shukadeva Goswami reciting Bhagavatam. Ajiva Goswami writes in Tattva Sandarbha, both Vyasa and Narada were present when Shukadeva Goswami had been relating Srimad Bhagavatam. And they were first givers of Bhagavatam. Vyasa gave to Shukadeva Goswami, and then they're sitting in the audience while Shukadeva Goswami speaking Bhagavatam. And when Srimad Bhagavatam came from the mouth of Shukadeva Goswami, it seemed to them that they had not even heard it before. Thoroughly anew, they accepted this Bhagavatam as thoroughly anew, although they themselves gave this Bhagavatam to Shukadeva Goswami. Why? What is this phenomena? Why it happened like this? Has Shukadeva Goswami changed Srimad Bhagavatam while narrating the Bhagavatam? Something was changed? No, wordings were the same, exactly the same wordings he was used, because he heard, and then as a parrot, the first qualification of the speaker, at least these first two were like a parrot in this. Just whatever we hear, we repeat. But why they the teachers of Bhagavatam, who teach him Bhagavatam, why they got this impression that they didn't hear this Bhagavatam before? Because of the realization of Shukadeva Goswami. So they could understood what he understood about Bhagavatam when they heard from him, and what is completely a new experience for them. And here we are coming to the meaning of this realization of a speaker. So because of this personal realization of Srimad Bhagavatam by Shukadeva Goswami and then Suta Goswami, that they recited Srimad Bhagavatam with, it deepened the understanding of their audience right away on the spot when they spoke Srimad Bhagavatam. Isn't it amazing? And it's described right in the third verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shuka Mukhat Amrita Drava Samyuta. It was the lips of Shukadeva Goswami which touched Bhagavatam, and because of this, it became really Amrita. It became nectar of immortality. Amrita means the nectar of immortality. Why? Because this red beak of the parrot, and Shukadeva Goswami, he is a parrot of Srimati Radharani, nothing else. And this red beak of the parrot, what is this red beak in this analogy? This analogy, red beak of his realization of Srimad Bhagavatam, higher realization. From the perspective of Anandamaya, we will come to him. It gave to Narada and Vyasa the same realization of the sweetness of Anandamaya Vyasat, or the Lord who is all blissful by his nature. So Shukadeva Goswami, we are coming now to the qualities of the speakers. First, we have to speak from realization, from what we realize, not just vibrating our lips. That's the first qualification, and then we can trace the history of Shukadeva Goswami. Shukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul from the very beginning of his earthly existence. We know this, right? He didn't even stay at home immediately, and he didn't bother even to come out for 16 years. Why? Because he didn't want to touch this matter. He didn't want to be involved in matters. So it shows that he was already liberated from any bodily designations. And more than this, he was immersed in Brahman realization. And we have these 5 levels of realization of the absolute truth, starting from Annamaya, and then Pranamaya, and then Jnanamaya, Vijnanamaya, and then Anandamaya. So he was on the level of Vijnanamaya, and understanding of absolute truth on these levels applies that the person who is on the level discriminate between the jiva, himself, his mind, and his body. So discrimination is there already. So he was absorbed in himself, not in his mind, not in his body, not in the science of prana in his body, nothing like this. He was on the level of vijnana, understanding his own eternal nature. And when he heard Bhagavatam from Vyasadeva, the Bhagavatam itself purified him so much that he got to the next level of realization of the Supreme Person, which is Anandamaya, or understanding the all blissful nature of the Lord, Ananda. And because of this, he realized himself as a parrot of Shukadeva Goswami. So his original nature manifested when he understood Bhagavatam on the level of Ananda, because the relationship with the Lord, that's Ananda. And he already was on the almost last level, being Brahman realized. So it took only one step for him just to hear Bhagavatam, to understand his real nature and the relationship with the Lord. And he could understand the sweetness of this relationship. And therefore, it's so powerful to hear from Shukadeva Goswami, because he now speaks Bhagavatam from the level of Anandamaya. He understands the Anandamaya Vyasat, or the Lord who is so sweet by nature. That implies understanding the relationship with this sweetness, understanding how I add to this sweetness. Everything is understood in the relation to this Ananda Maya. That's how we can deeply submerge in Bhagavatam just by hearing from Shukadeva Goswami and his representative. And it's said that we are so lucky, actually. We are so lucky because all these realizations of the previous acharyas got into the consciousness of Srila Prabhupada. Like we have original commentator of Bhagavatam. Okay, we're starting from Srila Vyasadeva, and then Shukadeva Goswami, then Suta Goswami, and then Sridhar Maharaj, and then Sanatana Goswami, and then Jiva Goswami, and then Vishwanath Chakravarti, and then finally Srila Prabhupada. They heard from each other, like next Acharya heard from his predecessor, and his realization was the basis of his own unique realization. So all this realization just added and added and added. Now we are getting this combined like realization from so many previous acharyas, so they are greatly enriched with this. And finally we heard from Srila Prabhupada, which just imbibe all this realization of different previous acharyas. That's why it's so great, it's so appealing. That's how they could hear and narrate Bhagavatam. 2 more minutes. And once Srila Prabhupada, we will describe our luck now. Srila Prabhupada told to his BPT devotees, don't change a word in my purports. Why? These purports are my personal ecstasies. And now we are coming how the realization of Bhagavatam, how it connected to the ecstasies which we can experience by reading Srimad Bhagavatam. They coming from the ecstasies of the Acharya who speaks Bhagavatam. And realization of Bhagavatam is realization of what? Of essence of Bhagavatam, that's rasa. And rasa, that's combination of different ecstasies. That naturally, one who understands rasa will get ecstatic just by reading Bhagavatam. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada is a great exponent of rasa of Bhagavatam, right? And therefore, he gets ecstatic when he writes his Bhaktivedanta purports. He feels what he writes about. He feels this happiness. He feels this bliss of rasa of Bhagavatam. Therefore, we have to hear from him as he wrote, that like word by word, nothing should be changed. Therefore, everyone coming in touch with Prabhupada books become purified with this transcendental rasa in his writings and his transcendental ecstasies. And we can attain the same ecstasies of eternal love of Krishna. Therefore, it's so important. As we said, when we hear the person who realized Bhagavatam, his realization become ours, and the same, the books of Srila Prabhupada, they laden with this high ecstasy of understanding of Krishna, of love of Krishna, not just understanding, love of Krishna, born of Hladini Shakti, that's Ananda Maya. That's his Hladini, and full of this juice of rasa. And when we hear with attention, submissively, with all this quality which we listed, so Srila Prabhupada's devotional ecstasy creates similar ecstasies in our heart as well. Who did notice it? Like when we read Bhagavatam, it's like from the books of Srila Prabhupada. It's so wonderful, so fulfilling. It's full of joy, actually. We can experience this rasa just by hearing from Prabhupada. And it creates a similar ecstasies in our heart. If the heart is pure, and the shadow of this ecstasy, when there is some still condition, but still it's so tasteful. And the ecstasy increases our relationship with the Lord, because they come in from the relationship itself, whatever we have, love or before love, it will be increased by these ecstasies gotten from Acharya. So, thus, by reading and studying Srila Prabhupada books filled with these devotional ecstasies based on the realizations of previous Acharyas, because how Prabhupada gets all this, that's the realization of previous Acharyas, that's the realization of their rasa with the Lord, we can get the same taste of bhakti. It's the same. Just submissively, just attentively, eagerly, and from the right source. And now we are coming to the end. So we have to stop here, although so much can be said more about this wonderful topic. So just repeat in a brief what we were discussing today, what we remember, and any questions if you have. You're welcome.
Mataji, I have two questions. The first one is that I belong to a Mayapur family, being an Indian. Yes. Okay.
You're being an Indian?
I belong to a Mayapur family. My family members are Mayapur.
Okay.
And over the years, I am listening to classes and following all the rules and regulations on Mayapur TV.
Okay, of your family
Hello.
or Mayavadis.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Mataji, thank you. I belong to a Mayavadi family, and over the years I am following on Mayapur TV all the rules and regulations like Darshanarti, Mangalarti. When I preach to them, they does Vaishnav Ninda and Sadhu Ninda, and I feel pain. So how to deal with them? Because I also want my parents to be devotees.
You just give them your taste. If you experience this taste, they will be conquered with this taste. It just give them the happiness of your relationship with the Lord. And they will compare the dryness of their relationship, of whatever they think to be the Lord, right, with your, then they will be conquered. But you have to be as brilliant as the sun in this. So you have to show your rasa, literally speaking. While you're speaking to them, be happy with what you said, not just, you understand it, right? So you have to show the bliss of your relationship to them. And then by seeing their dryness in their relationship, they will be convinced to accept it. That's how we have to preach, on the level of our realization. So you just grow your realization. And just tell them about the wonderful qualities of the Lord. That the Lord is a person. And see that everything comes from person. How our form can become from no form. How form can become from no form. There is a question of being Mayavadi. And it just, the normal sense. How our form can come from formless something. Not possible. Not possible. Just out of any
My
normal
question
sense.
is that I can argue or fight with everyone. Means I can preach to everyone.
No need to fight.
No, I mean I put my point to everyone, and when they criticize, that doesn't makes me pain. But when my parents does Vaishnav Ninda or Sadhu Ninda, like you are following ISKCON brand and all these, that makes me pain because of moha. So how to overcome this moha?
How to overcome?
This moha illusion of that. Obviously, they are my parents of this birth, and I feel pain when they do sadhu ninda. Are you getting my point? What I'm trying to say?
Pray for him, for your parents. Pray for them and ask the Lord to forgive them. That's how your pain will be relieved.
Thank you, Mataji.
Probably, yeah. Prabhuji can add.
Thank you for the very erudite class. That story of Shunaka being in the line of Sukacharya, where does that come from?
I heard this from Adipurusha Prabhu, because I heard his Bhakti Vaibhava, the presentation of his Bhakti Vaibhava, so I got it from there. And he is a teacher in VIG, teacher of Bhakti Vaibhava. That's how it came to me. I just repeat. So,
the understanding depends on your one's state of consciousness, right? Anamaya, pranamaya, jnanamaya, vijnanamaya. You'll have that. That you'll take from, according to consciousness, that realization or understanding you'll take from the Bhagavatam or any literature. Does it, when the acharyas are presenting they're writing from their own realizations, does it also, have you heard, include that when you're talking something, when the Haladini Shakti is prominent, or the Samvit Shakti is prominent, or the Samvit Shakti is prominent, then there will be a different understanding, there will be a different vision there, a different mood. Does it also work like that? As it works in different levels of consciousness, different understandings according to your consciousness? Have you heard that?
Yes, whatever a relationship are based on with their Lord, either on understanding of Hladini, experiencing Hladini, or Samvit, or Samhini, they will convey the same. And it's born from the previous acharyas. Therefore, we are so lucky we are on the basis of Hladini, literally speaking. We can understand the sweetness. So all of them, somehow they convey the same. First of all, because the sweetness is there in the relationship of the parrot. He is not just impersonalist, Shukadeva Goswami. He is not just Brahmavadi. He was there before he got to know about his relationship with Srimati Radharani. He is a beloved parrot of Srimati Radharani. That he has this loving relationship with him. Definitely he's on the level of understanding of the relationship from the point of view of Hladini. The same he expresses, the same he conveys to us. Therefore, that's our luck. So previous acharyas, they got into even higher rasa with the Lord, like Sanatana Goswami and Jiva Goswami and then Vishwanath Chakravarti, because they, Shukadeva Goswami didn't want even to mention the name of Radha. But they praising Radha and her relationship with the Lord like anything. It's like totally also different perspective. That's according to their rasa, that's what it dictates. Their rasa dictate to glorify their mysteries. How else? How else to express their relationship is? Of course, they will be so much enthused to speak about. And if they rewrite Bhagavatam, they will add the relationship between Krishna, the high rasa, and his loving gopis. But they did it in some other literature, inspired by Srimad Bhagavatam, of course. That's continuation of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhakti Rasamrita Singh, and then all other literatures written by Goswamis. The continuation of the Bhagavatam, but from the point of view of their relationship. They got this relationship from Shukadeva Goswami. They enriched it with their relation, because we cannot change Bhagavatam. They wrote their own literatures in the light of Bhagavatam, like just as a continuation of Bhagavatam. The same sweetness, the same Anandamaya, but higher and higher, and so many levels there to go, like this. And Bhagavatam itself a teacher, not just acharyas, but Bhagavatam itself because he is not different from Krishna, and he reveals to us whatever is needed for us to understand our relationship and to develop this relationship, strengthen this relationship. So we have the teachers as acharyas who speak Bhagavatam, then we have Bhagavatam who is personally leading us to understanding of even more depths of Bhagavatam. So it's like a total, like different dimension of this reality of Bhagavatam. From the point of the devotees who present, and then Krishna through Bhagavatam also gives us understanding which we required to go further. And he never stops in giving us a chance to understand him better and deeper. He never satisfied with whatever relationship we have with him now. Like Prahlada Maharaj, I always very enthused with this. Prahlada has a neutral relationship with the Lord. There is no active service, although he's praying to the Lord. So between he meditate, of course, he's an exponent of this meditation as an anga of bhakti, but still there is no active service. So the Lord was not satisfied. Was he satisfied? No. He said, Prahlada, go to Govardhan and sit there and meditate on my eternal lila as Krishna. And since then, Prahlada upgraded his rasa with the Lord, because he is not eternal parikar, he is not nitya parikar. For them, they don't need, but for all others who are here, they can upgrade. And the Lord always gives this upgrade of their rasa, of their relationship of the Lord. The same happening with so many devotees. First of all, the Lord is not satisfied, and he gives the direction where to go. And thus we have Brahma as Haridas Thakur, then we have Prahlad who came as Vasudeva Datta, right? And then we have so many wonderful devotees who upgraded their rasa in Gaura Lila already, or by Krishna himself. It's like this.
Prahlad was preaching. He was serving by preaching.
He was serving?
By preaching, he was...
Yeah, preaching. That's how Prabhupada writes here. We are getting more realization by preaching of what we heard about more and more, because more mercy comes. That mercy reveals a more dimension in our relationship with the Lord, for sure. And the Lord is more pleased when we convey the same, because this is a message of Bhagavad. It should be conveyed somehow or other. That's our mission, to convey this wonderful, beautiful Bhagavatam, following the footsteps of all of you, advanced devotees, and our previous acharyas. That's what we are doing. Anything else?
An example of what Bhakti Prabhu was speaking. I was in Srila Prabhupada's room, and Achyutananda Maharaj came in, and he said, Srila Prabhupada, the cowherd boys, are they in bhav?
Cowherd boys?
Cowherd boys, the cowherd boys, are they in bhav?
Are they in bhava?
Yeah. He asked Prabhupada, are the cowboys, Krishna's cowboy friends, are they in bhava?
Okay.
And Prabhupada said, yeah. And he went, Mahabhav. So no. Anyway, he was showing different levels.
Yeah, different levels of this reality, and there is no end of this. It's like whatever we realize now, it's getting more and more from the association with Bhagavatam, with all of you, with our preaching endeavors as well. So much mercy coming from everywhere, which purifies the heart. And Krishna, even the desire to preach Bhagavatam, it gives the manifestation of new and new directions from Krishna where to go. Even the desire to preach it, even the desire to hear Bhagavatam, desire to speak Bhagavatam. So Krishna never stops. The same, we have to follow it. Like from Bhava to Mahabhava, right? Don't change a word even. A word, even one word.
So this is like, slightly out of context, I feel like, right now there's a debate about whether you can read Prabhupada's books or not. Yeah, that's going on. So because, like, when Prabhupada was alive, right, when they were like, the books, BBG, whatever, I don't want to get into those details. So when he was like, there was a lot of changes in what he was telling and what was coming into the books. So he said immediately stop that. Then, like, he didn't want too many changes. Like, now when the discussion is going on, so what they feel is because most of the time Prabhupada was doing the tapes, and most of the tapes are lost. Okay, so there were many changes in the books, like, for instance, if you go deep into the Acharya's books, I think it's out of context. Should I stop?
I think so. It's like contradictory a little bit. Probably we shouldn't. But what we can understand that the inspiration behind it, and it was explained by the BBT. I was in BBT myself for 20 years, so I know what does it mean to translate and then to put in the wordings, and then it's like whole thing. But the intention was so pure, and because the purity of this intention, just to adjust a little bit for, like, it's nothing actually. Nothing is changed, like in the message. It's not changed, but it was done just for adjustment of the ears of the modern public, probably. Instead of 20 time repeated name Krishna, probably to put he, right, or something else, not something else. Okay, Krishna, 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 40 times per page. It's perfect. It's very good, but probably not for the ears of the modern people who cannot even read something which is repeated twice or thrice. It's boring for them. Therefore, they put he. Nothing is changed actually. It's very less that change. It's the whole this discussion. It's like coming of nothing. There is no substance in this, as I can feel, because I know all this. Like for 20 years, they maintain, even more for 30 years, they maintain this conference of adjustment of Bhagavatam and what was adjusted and what was corrected, and it's really nothing to fight about. It just make the Bhagavatam more smoothly coming to the ears, that's all. Nothing is changed. As we heard, that the realization shouldn't change the purport. The realization shouldn't change the meaning, the message. So nothing was changed like this. So all these battles on this field of, it's not substantial at all. There is no substance behind it. There's no reason for it. Anyway, thank you so much. And Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande Hari Bol.